May 2023, the season 2022-23, 365 days in a year. Yet football has a story within each and every one of them. Here is the story time of the day.
Welcome to the Talk Nonsense Story Time.
Here is a story time of the weirdest antics this season. Wife swapping players, kids crying, and Ryan Giggs' erotic poetry. It has been a wild season. From Qatar to Carlisle, there have been some ludicrous stories. As the season draws to a close, here are the weirdest antics of the season so far. And as Cal knows from last week, this one's going to be a weird one. Back in pre-season, Jose Mourinho looked absolutely baffled when a Roma fan proposed to his girlfriend in front of him. It was going pretty. It was a pretty rogue move, unless she'd always dreamt of a Venezuelan fitness coach, Carlos Lalin, being present for that special moment. It was if you haven't watched it, it's a very, very awkward moment. In September, Eddie Howe subbed himself on for Newcastle against Manchester City. Gary Neville turned his rage on, if you haven't already, on the potato. All these things they do with potato, just cut them, fry them, and stop putting them truffle and oregano on them and shit. As someone on Twitter mentioned, why is he talking about roast dinners like they just lost 3-1 to Huddersfield? After 8 months of living in England, West Brom's American striker Daryl Dike discovered he'd been washing his clothes with dishwasher soap.
Oh, I like this. I could tell me and this segment are going to be best friends.
There wasn't much to laugh about during Ryan Giggs' courtroom showdown with his ex-girlfriend until Ryan's lawyer read out the excerpts of his erotic poetry, "You are my love, my friend, my soul," which makes me as hard as a totem pole. Brilliant news there. Paul Pogba's unhinged brother Mateus also accused the French midfielder of witchcraft. He claimed Paul hired a witch doctor to curse Kylian Mbappe, which also was responsible for summoning the plague of moths that was distributed to the final of the Euro 2016, which, of course, I believe they lost to Portugal. Mm-hmm. Bit of a weird turn event. Keith Curle, do any of you know, was the Hartlepool manager who delivered an iconic post-match interview. Woke up this morning, I had 3 requests: us to win, Man City to win, and me missus to be in a sexy mood. I've got 2 of the 3 so far. I'll be grafting to make sure I get a hat trick, he said in the interview. The death, as we know, of the Queen was a big one. Death saw a string of touching tributes, none more than Ray Parlour, the former Arsenal midfielder, downed a Cobra beer with a shot of Jägermeister in honour of the late monarch. It's what she would have wanted, to be honest.
Can I interject? Just because you haven't had it on screen, I have a story about Ray Parlour. I won't tell it now, but I'll tell it in a future podcast. Ray Parlour was in my living room about 10 years ago, and I'll tell that story in another podcast.
Great story.
Yeah, so, okay.
What a gen! What a lovely man. Despite the fact he played for the dirty little Gooners, lovely man. Stood in my parents' living room about 10 years ago. Love the man.
Lovely pundit, lovely tribute, and a lovely guest, potentially on the podcast soon. In November, Spurs defender Eric Dyer scored a rare double over former Arsenal man Alexis Sanchez. Days after knocking Sanchez out of Marseille in the Champions League, Dyer announced his engagement to the Chilean forward's ex-girlfriend. Oof, Charlie, that one's for you as well.
Love it.
Winning.
The build-up to the World Cup was best set by squabbling over so-called fake fans. Did the Qataris pay stooges to dress up as supporters? The fans themselves insisted they are real. I'll let you guys decide on that one, to be honest with you. Just on touch on that one as well. But the real England fans, England supporters, could be identified by their tact and cultural sensitivity. We've got a picture from because of the sensitivity that arrived from it. They arrived in a devout Islamic kingdom of Qatar, dressed as a medieval crusader who sought to drive Muslims out of the Middle East. Good on them. Next up on our list is probably the biggest upset in world history. When the football kicked off in Qatar, Saudi Arabia pulled off the biggest shock in World Cup history, humbling eventual winners Argentina. Let's not forget that one. While pints of mint tea rained down on the Box Park Riyadh out in the countryside, things went up a notch, and I cannot show this, but there was a lot of gunshots fired. Just to quickly go on to the Qatari World Cup, Qatari ruler Tamim bin Hamid Al Thani broke away from the World Cup duties to sponsor a global anti-corruption awards in Doha. Among the gongs, a prize for combating corruption in sports presented by none other than Gianni Infantino. You couldn't make this up, by the way. Sheikh Tamim bin Hamid Al Thani also won the International Anti-Corruption Excellence Award. So I'll leave that one for you two guys to discuss. While this was going on as well, we've got local lover boy Jack Grealish. Jack Grealish cemented his status as a fan favourite during this World Cup, obviously on and off the pitch, by telling the interviewer that England were the best thing since sliced veg. He later denied this, insisting he said sliced bread. But if you want to go on TalkSport, you can definitely see, definitely know, and definitely hear that he says sliced veg. But it's all in the charm, isn't it? Making a second appearance, Cal, on the channel. And on this, Gerard Piqué's glittering career came to an abrupt end when he was sent off in his final game for Barcelona without kicking a ball. Quite frankly, according to the ref, Piqué branded him a fucking disgrace. And then, with his final words as a footballer, yelled, "I shit on your prostitute mother." Probably the second thing I've said. Second time I've said this in 2 weeks. I completely forgot about this next one. The BBC pre-match FA Cup coverage was disrupted by a loud moaning of a porn star in full climax, leading to some worried looks from presenter Gary Lineker. I don't know if you two remember this one. This was
it was on a Liverpool game.
Yes,
I was watching pre-match, just sat with my dad watching. I was like, turn this up.
It turned out the culprit was a YouTube prankster who taped a phone to the back of the set. We've seen the behind the scenes coverage, and well, quite frankly, if you want to go and look at it online, it does make for good viewing. And in the moment, none of us knew what was going on. There were a few raised eyebrows in the English department when this young Leeds fan turned up to the World Book Day. He dressed up as his favourite character from the 2009 classic Service Crew, the inside story of the Leeds United's hooligan gangs. That's all I need to say about that one, to be honest with you.
Wow.
Napoli sealed their first Serie A title since 1990, triggering wild scenes on the streets of Naples, but not before they bottled their chance against Leeds against rivals Salernitana. I don't know how to say the word, to be honest.
I don't know what that is.
If you've not seen this video, I've not got it right now. This is one of the greatest videos online of the year. It's basically all the kids fuming, crying, being kids. It's the best thing. Go and watch it if you love kids crying. It's amazing. When Wolves defender Philosophy Mabete signed his first professional contract, his family stole the show with some incredible outfits. Special mention to Mabate Senior for his magician top hat and intergalactic bomber jacket. which is quite fantastic. Although this is pretty usual by his standards. This is what his look was when he signed his trainee contract 2 years ago.
Oh my god, what are we watching?
And last but not least, thank you for watching, guys. Cal Walker nicely had his member out in a club. Is from Cal, he's a dirty dog at the end of the day, and I think that Cal Walker on the pitch is better than off the field. However, he is scoring in both, and quite frankly, that nicely wraps up the crazy antics of this season. So I'm not sure about you guys, but it has been a mental season, a crazy season in itself, and I don't know whether this ties up the season in itself. We could have some more stories, we could have some more tunes, we could have some more tales in the pipeline, but they are the stories of this season.
Get the applause.
Oh god.
Oh wow, that went a bit. It was taking a turn for a while. It's all right.
So, off the record, we talked about not. Oh, well, if we're recording, then fair enough.
What do you mean?
Now.
We're still in the outro bit of it. So, what do you think of the story, Charlie?
Great. Fantastic, magical, special. I'm lost for words, Dom. I can honestly say that I think that was great. I think that you've smashed it. I don't know what to say. That there was so much there that I had seen before and forgotten about, and some things about kids crying and hurting themselves. And I thought that was just majestic. And Dom, wow, I loved it.
Cal, what do you think? What do you think of the story?
Story time, mate. Story time, isn't it?
Story time. If it happens, it's story time. But if you haven't already, please can you go subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching. Story time will always be here. Even if I'm here only once a week, traveling around the country, story time will be here. Don't worry about that. But yeah, thank you guys for listening to story time. And I'll just quickly put this.
Welcome to the Talk Nonsense Story Time.
And as this podcast gets more professional and fears away from me, I will stick and get this back on track, Warner. That's the one. Thank you for watching, everyone. And that has been the summarization of this season. So see you later, guys.
If you like what you've just seen there and you want to see more content like this, make sure you give us a like and a subscribe on YouTube and follow us on Twitter @TalkNonsensePod.